So my name is Desilet Bolella, and I graduated from Springfield College in 2008 with a rehabilitation and disability studies major. And then I went on to get my master's degree from Simmons University in Boston. And currently I am employed both as an elementary school social worker in Connecticut, and I also have a private practice on the side where I see private clients, both children and adults, through the lifespan. Both in my role as an elementary school social worker as well as my private practice, where a large subset of those clients are children or adolescents, a lot of my work over the past few months has not only been supporting those children and adolescents, but working with their families, because we know that children are not raised in isolation, right? They're really raised, and their functioning is based on the functioning of their family and their parents. So a lot of parents and families have been approaching me and my colleagues with a lot of really valid questions in terms of how do we parent in these really unprecedented times, and how do we really make sense of a lot of the behavior that we're seeing. So a lot of these questions are directly from the work that I've been doing. This is the question that I'm getting the most. How do I tell my children in an age-appropriate way what is happening, for a lot of different reasons, for health and safety reasons, for social distancing reasons, and also to make sense of why children's routines have changed so significantly. And I think one of the reasons that this question is so difficult is for two reasons. One, we don't want to worry our children. We don't want them to be scared, and we're thinking about how they're interpreting the situation. Two, we don't always have all the answers. We ourselves are adjusting to this really difficult time, and we don't always know exactly what's going to happen. I think it's important that we are as transparent as we can be with our children, depending on their age. You know your child the best, what language they're going to understand, what might worry them or what might not worry them. It's okay to say there is a virus or an illness that's going around. There are lots of people working really hard to try to find an answer. There are scientists working really hard. Me as mom or dad or whatever role you are, we're here to help you through this. We're all learning together. And in the meantime, while we are waiting for scientists to have an answer, we need to make sure that people are safe, and we need to stay home and have a different routine because of that. And in whatever age appropriate way, with whatever language your child will understand, it's okay to be that transparent with them, and often helps them to understand better. Now that we're, 2.5 months in, maybe week 7 or 8, depending on where you are, this is becoming more and more so the fact. What seemed like a little bit of a vacation or might have some novelty in the beginning for kids is different now. And we are seeing a change in behaviors, many of us as parents. And trying to interpret that can be really difficult. So one thing for us to remember is that children show us their feelings, and especially show us their stress, through behavior. So how many people have seen, their child have a meltdown on the floor because you gave them the wrong cereal, or because they couldn't have ice cream for dinner, or these seemingly small things that are really creating a large reaction. Sometimes it's not about the thing, it's not about the cereal or about the ice cream, but about the stress in general, that they're using their behaviors to show us that they're going through something. Now, the difficult thing for parents often is, how do we normalize the feeling? I see that there's something wrong. Tell me how you're feeling. We can talk about how you're feeling. I'm here to support you, without normalizing the behavior. We don't have to say it's okay that you're hitting and kicking right now. It's okay that you're screaming on the floor. We can say, I can talk to you about this once your body is calm and sitting down. Once you're able to use your words and talk to me. So we're validating the feeling, but we're not validating the behavior. And that's a pretty significant difference. That's important for us to remember, that the behaviors mean something. We might see our children withdrawing more. We might see them having more tantrums or more behavior, more worries, more symptoms of anxiety or depression. And it's important to talk about that. Oftentimes we shy away from those feelings, and we can become scared of them or not want to talk to our child about them. But it's important that we lean into that and that we address that. Using our own examples of how we feel is really powerful also. And saying something like, I'm frustrated too, or I'm sad too, can be a really great modeling opportunity, so kids can also understand the importance of that and have a sense of that. The times we become a little bit more concerned about behavior is when there's marked differences. If you see that your child is having a very significant time sleeping, maybe their eating patterns are different, or they've stopped eating, maybe they've become significantly more withdrawn, they don't have interest in the same things that they used to, those would be opportunities to reach out for help and to have further discussions with other people if you're noticing that in your child. I think my first piece of advice that's most important, that I find myself repeating over and over, and I think us as individuals, professionals, parents, partners need to remind ourselves over and over, is these are unprecedented times. How we're feeling is completely normal because none of us know how we should be reacting right now. We have no roadmap. We have no one to look to say, I remember when I went through this 3 years ago. This is unprecedented. And the expectations that we have for ourselves are based on a system, and it doesn't look the same right now. If we have the expectations on ourselves to be able to replicate what occurs in a brick and mortar building by a school of hundreds or maybe thousands of staff members, depending on what it looks like in your district, that's going to be an unrealistic expectation. So it's really important that we're looking at our family, our family's needs, our schedule. You yourself know your child the best, what they can handle the best, your own work schedule and what's possible for your family. And it's important to speak up and to have communication if your child's in school, to be able to talk to those teachers or that school district. I find a lot of parents are worried or scared or have some guilt or even shame about the idea of saying, I need help, or we can't do all of this. There's a worry that their instruction or their decision is going to negatively impact their child's education and kind of worry about the future. It's really important to remember that all children right now are in the same position, and that education looks different, and we don't expect as a school district for it to look the same. And we know that once children return to school, we're going to have to reevaluate. That's going to have to look different. So really to just give yourself permission that you're doing the best you can. It's not all going to get done every day, and that's okay. We really have to adjust expectations. This kind of goes back to not necessarily having all the answers. And as parents, we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking if we don't have the answer, we can't give reassurance. There is a difference between reassurance and certainty. Very rarely do we have certainty. This is a period of time where there is very little certainty. We can be reassuring with the language we use to children while still saying, I don't know, or we need to figure that out, we need to wait, we're not sure about those answers yet. The way we can reassure children is in a couple different ways. One is by the words that we verbalize. Having those conversations, saying things like, I'm not sure, we're all in this together, mom, dad, grandma, uncle, whoever that makeup looks like is here, we're helping keep you safe, we're following everything we need to be doing. We can send those messages without being able to say or be able to answer definitively, when are we going back to school? What's happening with camp? When can I see my friends? We don't know those answers, all of us right now, and it's okay to say, I don't know. And that actually sends a message to our kids that it's okay to not know. It doesn't mean that we're not okay, that we can still be okay and not have all the answers. The other way that we send reassurance to our kids is through our own behavior and our own energy. Kids are sponges. So if you've ever had the experience where maybe you weren't having a good day and you thought that you were hiding that really well, and then your kids were like, why are you so cranky? Or what's wrong with dad? What's wrong with mom? What's happening? Kids pick up on that. They're like energy sensors and they're sponges. So if we are not taking care of ourselves, if we are burning ourselves by trying to balance work and kids and being that perfect parent and all of those things without adjusting our schedule, without taking time for ourselves, we are going to transmit that to our kids. They will feel that. And remember, kids are really egocentric, meaning that everything is about them, not in a negative way, but in a really developmental way as a survival mechanism. Their focus at all times is their needs and how to get those needs met. You can see that really well when you have children knowing what I go to mom for and what I go for dad for. If I want that ice cream, I'm asking dad, not mom. Kids know that really, really well. So if we are putting those frustrations or stressors onto them, they're going to think in some way that's about them, and they're going to internalize that. So it's really important that we're taking care of ourselves so that even non-verbally and just in our interactions, we're sending that reassurance to them as well. Like I was saying before, to be able to say, I'm frustrated or I'm unsure too, I miss being able to go to work as well, that's actually critically important. A lot of parents and people in general have a fear, there's a myth that if we show our emotion to our children, they will be scared and feel unsure. We can send reassurance while still showing emotion. And it's actually the opposite. When we hide our emotion from our children, we are sending the message that emotions are scary and that we shouldn't feel them and it's not safe to talk about them. So children then grow up with this idea of shame about crying, showing emotion, that it's scary. That's how we develop those patterns of trying to shut down our feelings or emotion. When we're able to model to our kids and say, I'm frustrated, or, mom is having a hard time too, or mom misses school or work too because she can't go to her school building and work with her students anymore, and we're, using the screen instead. There might be an age-appropriate way that we say that to our children, but by saying that, we're owning our own emotion and showing children that's okay to do. So we have to be in control of ourselves enough to share that. But once we are, it's really important and great learning for them. This is where I think we need to take a step back in terms of our expectations of entertainment and what can be entertaining. So we have a sense of things that kids enjoyed previously and an idea of what they will or won't enjoy now. But I will tell you, I am often surprised at the things that are the biggest hits or that kids like the most that I myself don't anticipate. So a good example of this is in my office, I have a pickup stick game. This pickup stick game is probably at least 10 to 15 years old. I probably picked it up at a dollar store along the lines and just has kind of become part of my therapeutic tools over the years. And that is one of the most sought after, excitable items because kids have never seen pickup sticks before, at least the kids that I've worked with, which make me feel very dated and old that they don't know what pickup sticks are. That's a great game for kids to practice control, patience, turn taking, being gentle and quiet and thoughtful, but it's very fun and it's novel for them. So really thinking about things that maybe aren't electronics or vacations or trips or the same level of what was happening before, these things that we might think kids won't enjoy, they really might surprise you in terms of board games, manipulatives, other things like that. There's also a lot of opportunities right now virtually to have new experiences or to do new activities. Many aquariums have live video cams where you can watch the penguins and the dolphins. That's really exciting for a lot of kids. They can do that fairly independently as well. There's a lot of cameras at beaches or places around the country that you can kind of check in different locations. Maybe there's a favorite place that you like to go. Maybe you like to vacation at Cape Cod. There's many live cameras in Cape Cod where you can see what is happening in that moment. Might be really entertaining for kids. There's also opportunities for music and drawing. Many people are doing free Zooms where they will instruct children how to draw or do different creative outlets, which also might be a new hobby for them. So it could take some creativity, but those things oftentimes can be very entertaining for kids and just new and exciting. So I think that the first thing that we need to remember, and I said it before, as we're going into a routine and schedule, is we need to be kind to ourselves. We need to adjust expectation, and we need to be cautious of having schedules that are too ambitious or too detailed or thorough. So really adjusting, and this is a little bit of a learning process. We might think that we have the routine set, and then we could find not so much. It might work from hour to hour or day to day. So it's important to be flexible and to adjust. That is easier in terms of that flexibility for some of us more than others, either based on personality or based on our routine and our jobs. There is some limitation there, and I understand that, but it's important to be as flexible as possible. For young children, having things as expected as possible helps them thrive. Children need consistency, they need expectations, and they need boundaries. Children will tell you they don't want rules, but without rules, they're terrified. They don't know how to make sense of their world, and they don't know what's expected of them. So trying to have a wake-up time and a bedtime as generally as predictable as possible is really important, and having that be as similar as possible is really important. Having written or visual schedules is really helpful, especially for younger kids. It could be pictures, it could be a clock with different pictures at the different times, it could be written. Whatever you think your child will respond to best can be really successful. Also, it can be very, very appealing to, now that we're home, have a little bit of a different routine in terms of staying in our pajamas. I've seen children, maybe at 2 o'clock in the afternoon still in their pajamas. I understand it. I can get that draw for that. It is important, though, for kids that we're keeping them in as close to a routine as they expected before. And by having them do their normal daily hygiene, getting dressed, it helps send the signal to kids that even though you're still home, you're doing school. And that's really, really difficult, especially for our young ones, but even for our adolescents. There's a lot to distract us. There's a lot more things that might be more fun than doing school. I hear a lot about the kids who are, on doing school on the laptop, but really they're on YouTube or they're doing Roblox or Minecraft. It's a hard balance. And by sending those messages, I'm getting dressed, I'm going to school, helps us differentiate what zone we're in when we're physically maybe not changing. And that's important for our work setup. Is there a quiet place that children are working? Do they do best at the dining room table? If there's an open floor plan with everyone around, kind of learning what works best for our kids and then trying to keep that as similar as possible. The other thing, the last thing that I find to be really helpful and helping kids kind of differentiate when I'm at school and home, when I'm still at home the whole time, is especially for the young ones, find something special. Find the special school crown, or maybe making something, the wand, or there's a special shirt that they really, or their Halloween costume that they really like to wear. And that's your school thing. That's what you wear when you're at school. And then when you take a break, when you are done with school, it goes into a special place and we use that again for school time. That can be a great motivator, so that we're recognizing kind of when it's time to work and still giving kids time to have a break, to play outside, to have that brain break, to have that wiggle break is really, really important. So this is a big one, especially as we continue to go through, as this goes longer and longer, kids have a different sense of time and ability to hold time. So what might be 10 minutes for a young child feels like an hour. So this period of time of not having the same socialization, not being able to see their friends, feels like even longer than it is. They, especially young children, don't have the same ability to hold that sense of time. So this, as we go longer and longer, is harder and harder. This is going to look different in every household and is really based on the comfort level of parents when it comes to technology, especially using technology to connect with their peers. there are a lot of opportunities, whether it be through FaceTime, Kids Messenger, different games that kids can play together online can be great opportunities. I mentioned before Zoom sessions where there's art being taught or music or another creativity outlet are also times for kids to see other kids. For people who are looking for opportunities that are not internet-based, doing things like parades. You see a lot of that nowadays where people are in their car doing drive-bys, even if it's a one-person drive-by. A lot of the students that I've worked with have been writing using chalk on their driveway, writing messages. People maybe at different times when the kids aren't there writing messages back. Signs that we're putting in our windows to just try to connect with people in larger ways, and using that creativity can be really helpful just so that kids feel connected. That's really a lot of what it is. It's not necessarily just the playing outside or the having games and time together, which kids do enjoy, but just feeling connected and even just seeing people's faces or sending letters, notes, pictures back and forth, even through the mail, something that we don't use very often anymore, can really be exciting to them too. When's the last time that your child received a letter or sent a letter? Maybe never, and that can be really exciting for kids. So really just thinking outside the box, and in some ways maybe going back to things that we did in our own childhood that we can now, teach our children. There's going to be caveats, new situations. None of this is a one size fits all for each child in each situation. We see this play out really well with siblings, where you might have one child who's really studious, they're doing distance learning on their own, no problem, you don't have to worry about them, and another child might present really differently, either based on age, gender, or just personality. So the first thing that I really encourage people to do, when I was talking about change in behavior before, if you see your child being withdrawn, not enjoying things as much, having difficulty sleeping or eating, that would be an opportunity, that would be an indicator to reach out for help. A child's pediatrician is a great first step to have a conversation, rule out anything medical, talk about any mental health concerns that you may have. They also are a great place to go for then further referrals or recommendations if there's mental health concerns. All 50 states have a telephone hotline called 211, and dialing that would connect you to resources. 211 is really plentiful and many different resources. If there are questions about financial assistance related to COVID, housing related to COVID, mental health support for your children, they have referrals and connections to connect people to therapists, either as an adult or as a child. And it's also an emergency crisis service. If you see that your child is in significant crisis, if you have concerns about safety, self-harm, that is an opportunity to call them, and they have crisis teams that are working. They're fully staffed right now, even through this crisis, and I'd recommend calling them. If you also have significant concerns and there is immediate crisis, calling 911. They will respond, and they will be able to address mental health concerns related to safety as well.